Good morning, Suzuki Science, grade 11. So here we are on week number 7, and we are nearing the end of our diversity unit. We started this all together at the beginning of the year when we did the classification, taxonomy, and exploring how wonderful, amazingly diverse the world actually is. Then we went into genetics, then we went into evolution, and every once in a while we popped our heads back into a little bit of diversity, and then we came to diversity proper. When we came back to diversity proper, we once again explored phylogeny and taxonomy. Then we went into a lot of information with protists, animals, and fungi from last week. I've not had a chance yet to look at your submissions because I think some of you might still be working on it. So I will take a look at that and do a little video addition to that a bit later, because I really am excited to look at your fungi and see what you guys grew at home. And this week we're looking at plants. We do want to get you outside. Next week we're going to be sending you outside, and you're going to be doing a little bit of a scavenger hunt. You'll be using a new app called Seek and iNaturalist. But before we get there, we still need to finish and learn about plants. So this week, to give you an overview of what you're focusing on, there are several things. It's a short week in terms of your day. The lessons are still divided into the minimum 3 hours, the complete lesson, and then the exemplary, where you're doing as much as you want to. Never is it ever my intention that you do all the work. It's way too much. It's kind of pick and choose, especially in the purple, pick and choose what you deem appropriate. With the plants. So I'm going to give you an overview of where we're starting and what we're doing. Taking a look at this. So the first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like each of you on our Padlet, so there'll be a link for a Padlet. You're going to find a plant inside your home, and you're going to take a photo of the plant. You could be in the photo if you want, but you don't have to be. And you're going to post it on Padlet, and you're going to give a little quick anecdote as to why that plant's important. Some kind of story. Tell us something about the plant. Why is it significant in your family's life? So, for example, I have this jade. It's a big jade. So I don't know if you guys have jades at home or ever buy them. They're quite expensive. And I have a little tiny jade. I should have had on camera. I should have brought that here. So a lot of times you buy jades at the Home Depot or the gardening center. They'll look like this. But here's a big one. And so what happened was I went to my sister's home, and she had this jade. And I was like, oh, that's such a nice jade. Oh, I wish we had a jade. They're hard to get. And I kind of borrowed it about 7 or 8 years ago. And here it is. All nice and healthy sitting here at our house. So that's a little anecdote. A jade that we appropriated from my sister, who lives in Brampton, actually. Okay. So that's the first thing. Next, you're going to return back to Mindomo. And in Mindomo, you're going to go back to that map that some of you had worked on. And in that map, there was a section on the plant kingdom. And so you're going to continue and complete this. We've done the bacteria, we've done the archaeobacteria, we've done the protist, fungi, and animals. And now the only thing left are the plants. So as you go through the learning, you're going to see that the plants are broken down into several different phyla divisions, and then those in turn are broken down into another number of other taxonomic ranks. So you'll complete that to get a good full picture view of the plant kingdom, and then putting it all together, you get a good view of the diversity of life. That's the purpose of this map. Okay. Next, when you look at your tasks for the week, you'll notice that the Mindomo map was yellow, so it's for complete. The Padlet everyone should be doing. That's easy enough to go outside and pick a plant if you don't have one inside. The 3 sisters. So I want to make sure that we're making a connection to our indigenous ways of thinking. So this is something that we've tried to embed throughout the school in many of our courses. Biology is a natural place, and if we were face-to-face together, maybe we could have had someone who is representative of the indigenous culture come and talk to us about this. I don't have that person for you, but you can do a little bit of reading. So you'll notice it's green, yellow, and purple. So there's various parts to this. So there is a reading, and my suggestion is that you just skim through the reading. And as you skim through the reading, what you're going to do is you're going to see reference to the three sisters. So I did a Google search here on the three sisters, and they include the corn, a bean, and some kind of squash. There's many different squashes, pumpkins, gourds, they're all squashes. And if you plant the three of those together, what you'll end up with is a planting technique that allowed the plants to benefit from each other, almost like a symbiosis. And so this particular author, she's quite remarkable. I have this book, and I recommend that you guys, if you ever get a chance to do some, off-course reading, this is a fantastic book. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass. And in this book, I took an excerpt. And in this book, this excerpt, so I'm just asking you to skim it. So it looks like a lot of reading, and for those of you who don't want to do it, don't. But maybe look at the first paragraph, maybe look at the last paragraph. I'm going to bold a few things in here that are the key pieces from this little excerpt. And in here, she talks about the amazing interaction of these three plants. How one provides structure, support, one supplies nitrogen, one grows earlier in the season, one grows later in the season, one extends the other's root structures. It's really quite remarkable that the indigenous people were able to determine this very sustainable way of planting and growing. We now use industrialized methods that are very, very different in order to feed the people around us. But this three sister planting technique is something that you could even run this summer at home if you'd like. So that's something I'm asking you to look at, the three sisters. And so you can decide how much of that you like to do. There's these anticipation guiding questions that you can look at before you do the reading, just to figure out what it is that you can focus on, things to think about that are beyond just the pure science. This is the activity from the three sisters. Normally it's a piece of paper you divide into four, but since we're not handing things in on paper, you could take your screen or use this table here. In the green, that's the minimum, and it's a graphic at the beginning. You can get all your information from the graphic if you want. The yellow, of course, is the complete experience, and the purple is the exemplary, so you can choose what you'd like to do. And on the bottom, make a specific connection from the reading to genetics, evolution, and biodiversity. This very much connects with the rest of the course. So that's another way for you to get an overall good, excellent demonstration of your knowledge. The end of the week product. So what are we doing? Because we always have something that, in addition to this worksheet, that we're handing in. Notice it's green, but it's green and yellow. So I'm asking you to take any plant, and it might even be the one that you showed in your initial Padlet. And you're going to take a picture of it every single day for 5 days. Or maybe it's day 1, day 3, day 5. But ideally 5 days. You want to pick a plant that shows a change. So when you look at day 1 and you look at day 5, we can see the change. Seedlings are great. Potatoes in the cupboard are fine. Buds on the trees outside, this is a great time of year to see those. There's so many choices of plants that you could use. So pick any one plant, take a picture with your phone, with the camera, and you're going to put it on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if all you're doing is taking a picture and sharing that, that'd be more like a grade 6, maybe a grade 3 kind of activity. Anyone can take a picture. The goal is your plant's going to change. It's going to either bend towards the light, it's going to grow, it's going to get bigger, it's going to flower, it's going to, who knows what it's going to do. It's going to do something that you see a difference between day 1 and day 5. And your goal is to explain using hormones or tropisms, like complicated words that are appropriate for grade 11, as to why that change occurred. If you put a seed in the ground and it germinated, there are hormones involved in that process. If you have a flower that's no longer a flower, now it's changing into something else, maybe a fruit, that is a hormonal process. If your plant is bending towards the light, there's hormones involved, plant hormones, that cause that tropism to occur. If you touch the plant and it closes immediately, that is a thigmotropism. If you look at roots and they go down towards gravity, so these are things that you're trying to find in a plant that you can observe, and then you're going to explain it. So just the picture, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I put that as green, as well as giving me the taxonomy and scientific name. But that's the minimum. That's not really a grade 11 completion. The grade 11, you're telling us a little bit more information, especially this part here. Okay? Tuesday, that's the video lesson release. I'm going to take this off because we're not going to do that anymore. Wednesday, Wild Wednesday. So I always do Wild Wednesdays, of which some of you have come. This week, we're going to do an activity, and hopefully we have both bio classes there. And we're going to look at some specialized plant parts. And that will be part of our live lesson for this week. So it'll be Wednesday at 12. I'm also going to run a lab that you would have done in class, and you can see it online of other people doing it, but I'll do it so that way you can ask questions about the process. It should take about 6 or 7 minutes to do, and we'll look underneath the microscope connected to my computer. On Thursday, I also put this live Google Meet, but let's leave that as tentative. These things here, I'm actually likely going to do them at the end of this particular lesson. So that way you can go through the video anytime you'd like. It's not as interactive as I'd like it to be. You won't be able to ask the questions, but I'll probably have a live Google Meet and Mr. Martin's as well, where you can ask questions about them and you can see in a different light. So that is the week. That's what we're planning on doing this week. Okay. So therefore, the Google Sheet. So this is the Google Sheet. This Google Sheet is made up of a bunch of plant stations. And each of these stations have information that you're completing. Some are in yellow for the complete experience. Some are in green for just the minimum. In many cases, they complement each other. For example, these two first pages here, they complement each other. One is a picture, one is a definition. Straight definition, anyone can look those up. You can see them in the PowerPoint. You can look them up online, easy. Now you have to apply it. And so here's the graphic that you take these definitions and put them to. One's green, one's yellow. So in most of these cases, there's minimal green because we're aiming for the 3 hours for those of you who just want to get this done and done. And you're not planning on taking bio next year, most likely, if you're doing green, for example. And the yellow is the complete experience. So you complete these things in the table. For most of these, you're going to go through the PowerPoint. And when you go through the PowerPoint will have the answers. Some of them might say complete a scientific illustration. That means drawing by hand, taking a picture. Or just get a label diagram that you found somewhere. It's your choice, whatever you're more comfortable with, however you're going to learn. You'll see some terms in here that you've seen before. Alternation of generations, for example. Again, photosynthesis is things we've talked about before grade 11 bio, so you should be familiar with that. Stomata, I'll be doing on the Wild Wednesday and demonstrating how to see it underneath the microscope. And transport, this is very important. This is part of the important grade 11 learning. In grade 12, we're going to be talking about metabolism. We're going to look at photosynthesis and how plants undergo photosynthesis through a biochemical understanding. In order to understand that grade 12 lesson, you do need to understand the structure of the leaf, the structure of the plant, the stomata, and how it plays a role in transpiration. So that is important learning for grade 12 in the transport section and photosynthesis. This lab here, Wild Wednesday, is what I'll be doing for you on Wednesday. Reproduction, notice that's in purple. That's more grade 10. You guys did the flower dissection last year, so it's really a repeat of that. Copy and paste it from grade 10 if you'd like. Propagation, it's interesting how plants are able to grow. I'll kind of show you that in the evolutionary plants that I have all around me. I don't know if you can see in my kitchen here. I've brought some plants relatively close, so I'll be talking about later in this lesson. Specialized plant cells and plant tissue, we talked about that in grade 10. Again, depending on your grade 10 teacher, you might have gone into more or less detail, but there's certain things that we expect you to be able to bring into grade 12, and understanding cell structure is important for grade 12. Plant evolution and adaptations, I'll be going over this. That's part of today's lesson, and it should be interesting. Plants are very interesting. Spices. At the very end, I put this in purple. This is just for fun. You know, when you're looking for, a lot of you are baking and cooking and making some really interesting things. Maybe you'd like to make your own curry spice. Maybe you didn't recognize that curry spices are very local. What you see in Jamaica and the Caribbean will be very different from South Asia and what you'll find in Pakistan and what you'll find in China and Japan. Everybody has very different curries based on some of the plants that they have in that area. So here I've given 5 recipes for curries, and some of them have links. They're all very local to specific regions, and so if you'd like to make your own curry and give it a try and see what happens, you're welcome to. I know some of you, when you cook, you make your own curry naturally. You probably don't even think about it, but just by mixing these spices together and grinding them up, it is a curry. right? So that represents a lot of the activity. If you decide to make a curry and you want to really get into the understanding of what the curry is from, you can go into this table and take a look at the various parts of the plant that you're using to make the curry and complete this table. But please, this is really meant to be an extreme elaboration. You have all the time in the world. This is something that truly interests you and you want to do it. There's no pressure to do this. It's just another framed activity that you can do to get a better understanding of the concept. So that gives you an overview of the week. There's some things that I'm going to elaborate on in the next video, so I can separate these two. This is the overview, intro to the lesson, and then the next one will be the video lesson. I'm going to try to keep it around 15 minutes in length, and then you have access to the PowerPoint. Let me at least show you the PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint, like last week, is a very large PowerPoint. There's a lot of information on here. The worksheet that you have, you're using the PowerPoint to skim through to answer the questions. I've tried to put most of the information in the PowerPoint so that you can use the PowerPoint without searching for 10, 15, 20 minutes online, which takes a lot of time. This is the PowerPoint that I would teach with in a sense, but I've taken a lot of things out. I know it might not seem like it because this actually represents a week's worth of learning. It's actually more like 2 weeks worth of learning in labs, but let's say a week's worth of content. You'll notice the color coding. Green is what you should know. It's the minimum. The yellow is the complete knowledge. There's a lot of green in here because there's a lot of just straight knowledge that's happening in the plant unit. And the yellow represents typically, so let's say this slide right here is the green, and then these yellow slides here right after it, they elaborate on that one slide. And so there's a lot of that. A lot of elaboration. That's what the yellow is. Okay, and there's no purple because really a lot of it's important learning for the plants. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the overview of this week. I think I've covered everything I'd like to in this overview. So have a great time with plants. I'll see you on Wednesday. Remember, next week we're going outside. You're going to be using a special app. We'll give you some instructions. And I look forward to seeing what special plants and anecdotes you have.